Greetings. See you. Kyva go. Kyva go, go, go. Go, go, gadget. Escalation of commitment is a human behavior pattern in which an individual or group facing increasingly negative outcomes from some decision, action, or investment nevertheless continues the same behavior rather than alter the course. The actor maintains behaviors that are irrational but align with previous decisions and actions. We'll stop right there. An example of that short sentence of escalation of commitment as it pertains to Scientology would be when L. Ron Hubbard, again, this is just my opinion, and we all know everyone has one. When he got to the well, first of all, whenever Dianetics stopped selling, and he did Dianetics 55, he was talking about LRH. He was getting a little desperate for money, and didn't want to pay taxes and all this shit. And he had submitted Dianetics or Excalibur or whatever the manuscript was to the AMA and the APA, and all of a sudden they're like, "You're fucking batshit crazy, bro. Nothing here." He got a little upset. So, but he continued nevertheless the same behavior. He wrote Dianetics 55 and started working on turning this movement into a religion. So by the mid-60s, and then by the late 60s for sure, he had a Church of Scientology. Economists and behavioral scientists use a related term, sunk cost fallacy. Sunk, as in sunken ship, like Free Winds, or Titanic. Cost, fallacy, something that's not true. To describe the justification of increased investment of money, time, lives, etc. in a decision based on a cumulative prior investment. So you can look at the Vietnam War, sunk cost fallacy, when it talks about the cost of lives. You could talk about the Church of Scientology in terms of money and time. So sunk cost fallacy is not, specifically, it's not specific to any one thing. Despite new evidence suggesting that the cost being immediately of continuing the decision outweighs the expected benefit. In the context of military conflicts, sunk costs in terms of money spent and lives lost are often used to justify continued involvement. Like I said, Vietnam War. In sociology, irrational escalation of commitment or commitment bias describes similar behaviors, and the phenomenon and the sentiment underlying it are reflected in such proverbial images as throwing good money after bad, or in for a penny, out for a pound. You registrar, somebody in your own group for $18,000, you get a $46 paycheck. In for a penny, out for a pound. Is that right? No, that would be in for a pound, out for a penny. Oh, no. No, it says in for a penny, in for a pound. Sorry. In for a penny, in for a pound. So, actually, it does reference the Vietnam War. I didn't scroll down this. I didn't pre-read this before I did the video. But the subject came to mind in sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy. So usually there's a placebo in every religion where they ask you to believe something right off the top. In other words, if you're Catholic, they want you to believe that Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected on the third day. You believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In Scientology, it's a little more innocuous than that. There's a lot more inoculations, I should say. A lot more seemingly harmless inoculations, like the ARC triangle or the personal integrity reference, or the ups and downs course. So in Catholicism, the inoculation is, do you believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross and was resurrected on the third day? We have no proof or evidence of this. It's based on faith. So whenever you accept that inoculation, you're leaving your logical sense and judgment at the door, and you are now a believer. And it kind of, I'm not trying to knock on the Catholic Church. I believe that the Gospels are useful, and Psalms are useful in certain situations. Read them, helpful information. I also feel the same way about Buddha Sutras and the Art of War and the Tao Te Ching. But the escalation of commitment seems to occur when you have taken that placebo and in for a penny, in for a pound, you've inoculated yourself to believe something in which you have no real evidence that is to prove that it's true. So the more you inoculate yourself, the more truths that you believe, the harder it is to justify abandoning those beliefs. And in sociology, yeah, I already read that. So the references they give are Vietnam War. There's several theories: self-justification, prospect theory, attribution theory, social identity theory, and those are some models. And then there's some theoretical models: temporal model of escalation, aggregate model. So quickly go over those. The self-justification thought process is part of a commitment decisions of leaders and managers of a group that can therefore cause a rise in commitment levels. This attitude provides, quote, one explanation for why people escalate commitment to their past investments, unquote. Managers make decisions that reflect previous behavior. Managers tend to recall and follow information that is aligned to their behavior to create consistency for their current and future decisions. If a group member or outside party recognizes inconsistent decision making, this can alter the leadership role of the manager. Managers have external influence from society, peers, and authority, which can significantly alter a manager's perception on what factors realistically matter when making decisions. So, this is why L. Ron Hubbard created all of the management series, in my opinion. To create consistency, to create a consistency of how to manage. Now, you take any executive director of any mission, and they will, as it says here, have external influence from society, peers, and authority. Now, that's all dependent upon if they even have any connection to the WOG world. But if there is, and there usually is, that can significantly alter the manager's perception on what factors realistically matter when making decisions, which can be a slippery slope for executive directors and executives in general. Because if they make a decision that is too deviating from, or deviates too much from the established pattern, then the juniors under them, which is the term they use in Scientology, your junior, someone beneath you, will then start to manifest doubt, manifest danger. These are all conditions, right? Ethics conditions in Scientology, and lower conditions. So that's the self-justification theory. Prospect theory helps to describe the natural reactions and processes involved in making a decision in a risk-taking situation. Prospect theory makes the argument for how levels of wealth, whether that is people, money, or time, affect how a decision is made. Researchers were particularly interested in how one perceives a situation based on costs and benefits. The framing to how the problem is introduced is crucial for understanding and thinking of the probability that the situation will either work in favor or against you and how to prepare for those changes. Quote, White, 1986, argued that prospect theory provides the psychological mechanism by which to explain escalating commitment to a failing course of action without the need to invoke self-justification processes. Feigenbaum and Thomas, 1988, 1999, prospect theorists believe that one's use of this process is when there is a negative downfall in the stakes that will affect the outcome of the project. To ensure they will not fail, the individual may add more resources to assure them they will succeed. Though this theory seems realistic, researchers Davis and Bobko, 1986, found no effect of personal responsibility on continued commitment to the previous course of action in the positive frame condition. In other words, more resources to obtain the same outcome did not affect escalation of commitment. That's interesting. Which means the escalation of commitment will be lower in the higher responsibility situation. So you're on staff and you get a week of 100,000 GI. It's saying that your commitment level is not going to change. Interesting. Very interesting. Attribution theory, originating from Fritz Heider, attempts to find causal explanations for events and human behaviors. In quote, this theory approaches two methods of inquiry, including locus of causality and stability. Locus of causality reflects on internal characteristics of an individual, such as intelligence levels and attention seeking, with the relationship of the external space, such as weather forecasts and task difficulty. Aspects of control become a significant factor in how a manager justifies a decision made. Managers will use the relationship between internal and external factors to describe why they made a decision from a single point of view. Managers may justify their actions by explaining that this was out of their personal control of the event, or they could believe that the decision could not be controlled by anyone else. Research suggests that, quote, the type of attribution made by an employee across these dimensions is likely to impact an employee's tendency to engage in the negative emotional activity referred to as escalation of commitment. So, causal explanations for events in human behaviors. What is the cause? Locus of causality, the center of causality. What causes someone to engage in negative emotional activity, referred to as escalation of commitment. So, as I said previously, the inoculations that you accept. Jesus died on the cross and was buried and rose again from the dead to save the living. Or affinity, reality, and communication are the components of communication. Or that only 44,000 people will be saved. I don't know much about Jehovah's Witnesses, but a certain amount of people will be saved, and the rest, everyone else, gonna die. You accept this inoculation, and to sort of wrap it around to a more realistic situation like the Vietnam War, sunk cost fallacy. We're in. We've got to finish. We've got to finish this. We have committed ourselves to finishing this. And there's some stuff about Einstein that I would like to comment about whenever he was trying to prove that he could predict the orbital motions of celestial bodies. And he predicted accurately. It took him a long time, a year or so, plus maybe some calculation time to prove the orbit of Mercury, and he predicted the path of Mercury around the sun. He needed help to do so. But the whole time he was basically being told he was a nutcase, right? If I'm wrong, please tell me. If I'm wrong, please tell me. I will update it in the description. So, last parts here. Theoretical models. Temporal model of escalation. Groups engage in temporal comparisons, which means that you compare actions and behaviors at, quote, different points in time. This is a form of social identity. This type of comparison can be made when a decision seems unproductive and forces team members to consider any threat to the group. So, when you compare actions and behaviors at different points in time, this could be a situation where an executive could be removed from post, where enough people, enough juniors, have written up enough CSWs or knowledge reports or even OWs that someone senior to the manager might read and be like, this person has lost control of their group. That would seem to fit the definition of the temporal model, where people compare actions and behaviors. Groups engage in temporal comparisons. Why is so-and-so making us do this? Why do we have to sell 180 books in one day, every day, for the last 3 months, or whatever? Person may be put on a handling. Person may be, the manager may be put on a handling. You may be put on a handling. Nothing may be done. But what's interesting about the escalation of commitment is that the increase in resources doesn't affect the escalation of commitment. So what I'm getting out of this is that And still got one more model to cover. But what I'm getting out of this is that it doesn't matter how much resources you have. Once you have been inoculated into this belief, whatever it is, whether it's Jesus died on the cross, or ARC, or KRC, or PTSSP, or whatever the inoculation is, where you leave your brain at the door and you just accept that there are some things that are just the way they are. Escalation of commitment will occur, whether there's resources or not. So, aggregate model. The aggregate model's emphasis is upon the accumulation and balance of forces rather than the ordering of effects over time. The model is general and can provide an ideal view as to how. The effects, whether positive or negative, are defined by micro and macro forces. This model goes by situation rather than what researchers have defined as the norm. There is no process to follow, which makes it very useful for researchers because they can understand a situation more clearly as well as see the bigger picture of the situation. So, an aggregate. That would be, the word aggregate means many things together, aggregations of things. So, accumulation, and then the balance of those forces over time, rather than the ordering of those effects over time. That's a difficult one to tackle because it's the accumulation of many things. So, but it would actually probably be one of the more relevant models for Scientology, because Scientology is an aggregate cult. The beliefs, you can find almost any belief from any religion in Scientology, somewhere in Scientology. You know, Hubbard was a mad man. He was madman. If you read the OT8 materials, which ain't much, I think it's a single line, realize that you mocked it all up. He gets you all the way up the bridge, say you make it all the way up the bridge, and you do all this shit, you go through the wall of fire, you do OT 5, 6, 7, 8, get to 8. Realize that you mocked it all up. What a head fuck. Realize that everything you did in Scientology was just a mock-up. And a mock-up in Scientology is just something that you made up. In other words, you chose to believe this shit. And maybe that's the realization that he came to close to his death. No, I just made this shit all up. So, that is escalation of commitment. About as good as I could go over it, I guess. Again, this is all opinion based. I have no PhD. I have no degree. I have no credentials. All I have is my opinion, and everyone has one of those. So, feel free to correct me. I know there's some LPCs and possibly doctors that watch this channel, and therapists and stuff like that. So, by all means, comment and let me know what I got wrong. I'm still studying. But escalation of commitment, Kyva Go. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Today I uploaded a little project that I did in 2014 in the creative processing playlist, and it's just a puppet show that me and some friends were working on. It's a screen test. Nothing ever came of it. Ended up having to get rid of a lot of the equipment that I was using to pay my attorney. So, but it's a fun little video, kind of shows some of the creative shit I was working on back then. And also next week I will be going to the neurologist and hopefully get some answer about something, and maybe find out if I need another surgery or anything like that. Still plan on going to the event in Clearwater March 10th. So if you want to help me get there, that'd be awesome. Income is limited, and depending on what happens at the doctor, I may end up having to file Social Security. So to do that, people have asked me personal, like in private messages, how to help me out. So if you go to the main page on the right hand side, there's a little link to my blog, there's a link to my Patreon, and there's another link, I forget where that goes, but the Patreon link looks like a little P. You just click on that, and it's pretty self-explanatory from there. So yeah, if you want to help out, that's awesome. If not, please enjoy all the content on WOG World, and it's all free. If there if there are monetized videos, it's not because of me, it's because there have been copyrighted content flagged, and the creator of the content can monetize them through my channel. So if there's ads on the live video from the Brian Fontenot show I did, it's because the creators are monetizing that. And if there's ads on my dad's video, the disconnection story, it's because the copyright claimant is monetizing their music. I don't monetize any of my videos. It's all free. So, peace out.